Hello and welcome to another lecture of the course Aquaculture. Today we are going to talk about analysis of water quality parameters for aquaculture. Uh, I'm going to discuss it in two parts. So today we shall be discussing part one of analysis of water quality parameters for aquaculture. Water quality, how that is important and how much that is important for aquaculture. We know that we are dealing with aquaculture. So the first four letters of aquaculture, that is AQUA, aqua, that refers to water. And we know that we are going to deal with the organisms which are living in water. In aquaculture, we are going to farm or culture those or cultivate those organisms which are habitual of living, which are adapted to live in aquatic conditions in water. So, when they are adapted to survive, grow, feed, grow, reproduce, and complete their life cycle within the water. So, the quality of water, the type of water in which they are habitual of living there to complete their life cycle, that becomes of utmost importance. And in fact, if you remember, we discussed broadly three types of water systems: freshwater system, brackish water system, and then marine water system. All of these three categories have different range of water quality parameters, and there are different aquatic species which have adapted successfully to survive, feed, grow, reproduce, and complete their life cycle within these type of specific water systems. Therefore, whenever we have to select any species, aquatic species for culture, either in freshwater or brackish water or marine water, then we should have a better understanding on what is the quality of the water parameters which is there in the water which we are going to use for aquaculture. Those water quality parameters must be in the optimal range in which the candidate species can show good survival, growth rate, as well as reproduction, and completes its life cycle, you know, comfortably. So that way, we need to understand what water quality is, and we need to understand the range in which these species, candidate species, for example, fishes, may be able to complete to grow well and reproduce. Now, since water quality, we all know, is getting deteriorated by a variety of anthropogenic activities or human interference in a number of ways. For example, the water source, and if I talk about freshwater source or brackish or even marine, freshwater systems are more fragile. We depend on aquatic source for multiple purposes. There may be use of the freshwater source for agriculture purpose, for livestock production, for factories and all. The freshwater sources may receive sewage, industrial effluent, and agricultural runoff, and many other contaminants or toxicants that may be added, or pollutants that may be added to the aquatic source, altering the characteristics of the water, the quality of the water. Now, when water quality is altered by one reason or the other, what is its influence, and how different water quality parameters work in interacting with each other, how they influence each other, and what is the overall influence of these water quality parameters on overall performance of the candidate species, for example, fish, when we go for aquaculture um, system. Now, about this only, we have many type of, in these points we have discussed the significance. And then what are different water quality parameters? When we analyze the water quality parameters, our main focus is to get the information quantified. We in order to understand that what are different important parameters that are going to influence the fish culture operation. For example, some of them have been written here: temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, alkalinity, hardness, ammonia, nitrites, etc. So there are many water quality parameters which can influence fish in a different number of ways. Water quality determines not only how well fish will grow in an aquaculture operation, but whether or not they survive. For example, if just as an example, if pH goes down drastically, then what will happen? That may lead to acidosis. Or if it goes beyond a limit on the upper side, alkalosis may occur. If there is lowering of dissolved oxygen content, then there may be problem of, this is quite common that due to oxygen depletion, a large number of fishes die in many of the systems. All of a sudden, many of the fishes die on mass level. So that becomes very, very problematic, especially not only with the for the growth and um, reproduction, but water quality parameters play a very important role in the survival itself. So we all know that in different aspects of fish life cycle, different water quality parameters may be having very significant role. Uh, in water quality parameters individually as well as in combination with each other or interacting with each other, they can influence the biology, the physiology of the fish which is being cultured. Now, I've tried to show you here that since water quality parameters influence the life of fish which is being cultured or which has to be cultured, so we must understand that what has been given in the published literature as the preferred range or optimal range required for fish to be cultured in different type of waters, freshwater or brackish water or marine water. There are some very important sources for this FAO, APHA, and there are many publications. You can go to the Fisheries Institute's website, some of the authentic published literature, some of the academic institutions' website. You can get the information on what is the preferred or optimal range of each parameter for different kind of system. For example, here in freshwater aquaculture, pH has been said to be between 6.5 to 8.5, total alkalinity 50 to 300 ppm calcium carbonate, total ammonia less than 0.002 ppm, nitrite less than um, less than 1 ppm or 0.1 ppm in soft water, hardness more than 50 ppm, salinity less than 0.5 to 1 ppt, iron less than 0.5 ppm, CO2 less than 10 ppm, temperature for cold water and warm water, different temperature conditions, and for different species in different regions, you may get different ranges. Dissolved oxygen not less than 4 to 5 ppm, chlorine less than 0.02 ppm, turbidity 40 to 60 um, centimeter, and that we measure with Sakai disc. So this is the average range given, but there may be different interpretations depending on the conditions, depending on the region, depending on the candidate species you are going to culture. In freshwater fish hatchery, very little variation in some places, but usually the same. One thing which should be taken into account is dissolved oxygen. The supply of dissolved oxygen is required more in case of younger fishes. And that is because we know the utility of oxygen in growth and metabolism of the fish. So the water quality parameters for fish hatchery should also be, you know, ascertained in a better manner. In brackish water fish hatchery, we have taken this information from SEBA website. You can visit the website and get more information. The parameters and their the optimal range or values of these parameters, which can be considered for aquaculture. pH 6.5 to 9, since the fishes are to be cultured in brackish water. So DO not less than 5. Then CO2 not more than 10 ppm, as we have discussed. Total alkalinity 50 to 400, and likewise all other parameters you can see and have a look on the range. Try to keep the water quality parameters within this prescribed range when you are going for such kind of culture practice or fish farming in these systems. For grow out fish ponds in brackish waters, again from the source SEBA, Central Institute of Brackish Water Aquaculture at Chennai. You can have the complete information by visiting the website. And here the desirable range is given, but they have also given in a very, very, I should say, practical manner, the acceptable range. That this is desirable range, but every time we don't get that desirable range. But even if the variation or fluctuation is within this range, acceptable range, then again it is good. You can go ahead for aquaculture practice. Say, for example, pH is 6.5 to 9.5, but acceptable range is even if pH goes up to 5.5 or at higher side up to 10, you can go for brackish water aquaculture. But you will have to be careful. If you are going beyond desirable range, then you will have to be alert in order to take care of the overall health of the fish and overall performance of the fish. Likewise, other things also, total alkalinity, ammonia, unionized ammonia, nitrate, turbidity, salinity, phosphate, and other things are described here. In Mariculture also, here the information has been collected from CMFRI website, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute at Cochin. And you will get to see that here also the parameters have been provided some specific range, some optimal range. You will have to ensure that the water quality remains in this optimal range in order to get better results. Please be assured that feeding and breeding and taking care of health by exposing them to drugs, prophylactic treatment or therapeutic treatment, that comes only if they are living in good quality water where survival is ensured, where everything is going normal. So the first thing you need to take into account is the water quality parameters, which are required to be in the optimal range. Its impact will show everywhere. When the water quality parameters go beyond range, optimal range, they put the fish into stress. And we all know when any organism comes into stress, then everything is affected. The growth, the metabolism, the gonadal maturation, the breeding performance, the fertilization of the egg, the hatching process, everything is adversely affected, and the fishes become more prone to disease occurrence or pathogenic attack. So ultimately, you may not be knowing that what is happening. I'm providing food, whatever food is required, and I'm taking care of these fishes. Then what is happening? So, or maybe you are taking care of one or two water quality parameters, but not the others. So first ensure that the water which is being used for the fish culture, because that is their ambient environment, so that should be in the optimal acceptable range. So that thing must be taken into account. Let's discuss some of them here in a little bit of detail. For example, temperature. Temperature is one of the most important factors that can influence fish culture practice, that can decide the overall viability of the culture practice. For example, if the fishes are living in warm waters, if you are doing fish culture in warm waters, then what happens? For example, in the regions like nearby Aligarh, Delhi, or northern part, what happens? We experience here very harsh winter conditions and harsh summer conditions as well. So what happens? That during winter conditions, because the fishes are habitual of living in warm water, they are called as warm water fishes. For example, Indian major carps, katla, rohu, and mrgal. When the fishes are habitual of living in warm water, and if in winters water temperature, for example, surface water temperature may go below even 10 degree, below 10 degrees centigrade during harsh winter conditions. So what will happen? These are not cold water fishes, they are warm water fishes. So they even stop accepting the food. They do not show any growth, and sometimes if those harsh conditions continue with regard to temperature, continue for a long time, then you may get negative growth. So that is something which is going to influence the entire culture operation. I can tell you that keeping the temperature within the optimal limits is very important. I can give you one example that I was part of the research program which was being carried out at CIFE Mumbai at one of its field stations. So in Haryana. So what we did, since that is also in the northern part, there was very harsh winter condition. So we developed a poly house, and using those GI pipe frames and then HDPE sheets, we used poly house very similar to what you see in case of vegetables and horticulture and other things. Same type of enclosure poly house we developed for pond, and of course keeping enough space to move within the poly house on the dikes. And we used we kept provision for windows, we kept provision for large exhaust fan, and then door also. In the winter conditions, when the fishes were stocked within the poly house and the same number of fishes in the same kind of pond with all the conditions same outside poly house, what we got, that the fishes which were in the poly house, they showed excellent growth when they were cultured there for about we introduced in the first week probably of December, and then we harvested in the I think first week of April. Then December, January, February, March. These 4 months they were kept inside the poly house, and for the same 4 months fishes outside the poly house. The fishes which were kept inside the poly house, they showed excellent growth rate. I mean, outside poly house, the fishes grew to only about I think 60 grams or so. When we introduced, the weight was hardly 4 or 5 grams, and then those which were kept inside the poly house, they showed approximately 125 gram or something weight after these 4 months of culture. So you can see, when temperature was made to a desirable limit, when it was not allowed to go down beyond a limit, then these warm water fishes showed excellent growth. However, they were getting everything, food and all other things, in the same quantity and in the same manner, but the condition was different. Not only this, by manipulating temperature, we also succeeded in the same poly house. We also succeeded in advancing the maturity of the carps. What we did, we introduced these carps in the December month, first week of December month, and ultimately we harvested them in the first week of April. Then we got these fishes, mature by mid of April. And the fishes which were kept outside poly house, the brood fishes, they were maturing in their normal course in the mid of June and or afterwards. So we got advancement in the maturity of carbs just by manipulating the temperature. So you can just think of that how important these water quality parameters and these physical, chemical, biological parameters are to be taken care of when we are doing aquaculture. It's not only feed and seed and drugs. No, water is very important. You will have to take care of all the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of the aquatic system in order to get the fish growth, desired fish growth. There are different methods of you know monitoring water temperature. You can use thermometers. You can use digital thermometers nowadays, and you can fix the thermometers within your aquatic system, which will record minimum and maximum of the temperature variation. So there are many methods we all know about, but this should be taken care of in a very routine manner. Then comes another very important parameter, that is dissolved oxygen. In fact, this is one of the parameters, fortunately, about which many of the entrepreneurs or fish farmers or businessmen, they are aware of. Most of them, they know that, okay, dissolved oxygen should not come below a limit. In fact, if it comes below a limit, then hypoxia condition or sometimes anoxic condition also may develop if you are very ignorant. So the dissolved oxygen content, in fact, we all know that how oxygen is important in survival, growth, and metabolism of the fishes, and that is related to temperature also. The dissolved oxygen content in the water sample is related to temperature as well. At lower temperature, the oxygen solubility in the water is more. And as temperature increases in water, the solubility of the oxygen decreases. So ultimately, the availability of oxygen to the fish will be only whatever is present as soluble oxygen in the water. So what oxygen solubility in water becomes crucial. So you will have to take care. Different parameters interact with each other in order to have water quality parameters in check. That is very important. You will have to understand all the parameters. So and we all know that this depends on many other factors. Since fishes are poikilotherms, they can tolerate the temperature variation, but within a given limit. So if temperature goes beyond a limit, although they are poikilothermic, they are cold-blooded animals, but if temperature goes beyond a limit, the oxygen solubility will decrease, the oxygen available in the water will decrease, so they may not be getting the enough oxygen for their survival and growth. So that may adversely impact. So we can monitor the dissolved oxygen level, and in fact, what happens that warm water fishes, here it is written, can tolerate lower dissolved oxygen concentrations than cold water fishes. Why? Because cold water fishes are habitual of living in high oxygen content, high dissolved oxygen content, because as I told you, at lower temperature there is higher dissolved oxygen content. So they are habitual of living in more oxygen conditions, high oxygen conditions, and that is why you can say that cold water fishes are quite sensitive to oxygen fluctuations. What happens that oxygen, if you examine or monitor oxygen levels, dissolved oxygen levels in your pond, what you will see that oxygen levels are usually at highest in the afternoon. Why? You may be knowing, because of photosynthetic activity, because of the light conditions. The oxygen level in the afternoon is at its highest. But what happens during the night, when there is no photosynthetic activity, carbon dioxide is being released through respiration. Where this carbon dioxide will go? When this carbon dioxide gets dissolved into the water, it makes the water acidic by forming carbonic acid. And because of that, pH also comes down. I was telling you, temperature is related to oxygen, oxygen again is, and these are related to pH. So everything is getting, adjusted with fluctuation in one parameter, other parameters are also being affected. If you notice, in most of the cases, the oxygen concentration just before sunrise is at its lowest. And it is that point of time, if you are not taking care of the water quality, if you have gone to intensify the aquaculture practice by stocking more and more fishes, you are providing more and more food, and you are not taking care of the water quality, then at that point of time, early in the morning, you may get hypoxia condition developed in your pond, and especially if there are cloudy days. Then what happens? The fishes may come at the surface, just utilizing more and more, gulping air from above the pond surface, getting atmospheric oxygen, trying to get atmospheric oxygen. At that point of time, they are so stressed that it is very difficult for them to continue, and they just go upside down. And in those conditions, it becomes very, very difficult to get the survival of the fishes ensured. So we should monitor everything regularly so that this doesn't come. Whatever optimal level is required, we should go for that. We should not allow the oxygen to come down below 5 ppm or maybe 4 ppm. If it comes below 5 ppm up to 4 ppm, you can just go and take some action. Some of the fishes, even we have noticed in our experiments that some of the fishes we have seen that in the large fiberglass tanks, these rohu young ones, Liberoita young ones, they survived even at 2 ppm oxygen. That was very challenging, but they were surviving just for that duration. You never knew that when they are going to be showing the signs of stress. They were stressed, but they were not dying. You just can't say that. So why wait for them to die? You are looking here for more biomass production. So provide good quantity of oxygen in dissolved form, so the fishes will give you excellent performance in terms of growth, survival, growth, feeding, and even getting success in breeding. You need to ensure that they are having good dissolved oxygen concentrations. There are different means of maintaining dissolved oxygen concentration, but try to maintain overall water quality by managing all aspects of aquaculture. So that way you will be able to control the viability of the aquaculture operation, and making it sustainable. Prolonged exposure to low non-lethal levels of dissolved oxygen constitutes a chronic stress that we have already discussed. And when they are in stress, oxygen stress, almost every aspect of fish life is affected, and making them more prone to disease occurrence also. So ultimately, the entire culture operation may not be economically profitable. The fishes may die or give very poor production. Intensive fish production in ponds, cages, flow-through, and recirculatory systems require aeration or oxygen. That is one of the reasons that when we intensify the culture production, if you can recall, I told you about extensive culture system, semi-intensive culture system, and intensive culture system. When we go on increasing the number of fishes per unit volume of water, per unit area of the pond, then it becomes more intensive. That means their dissolved oxygen requirement increases with increasing stocking density. So to cope up with the increasing demand, the oxygen which is available naturally in the water is not sufficient. So with intensification, it becomes necessary to supplement the oxygen in the aquatic system by using many of the aids like aerators and other things. So the fishes get enough oxygen, but because without oxygen, everything will go waste. You will not get good growth. You will not get good performance of the fish in your pond. So there are different methods. I'm not going to discuss them in detail. There are different methods of dissolved oxygen estimation. One of the very popular, most popular probably method is Winkler's method for dissolved oxygen estimation. The only thing which I can tell you here is that while sampling the water of the pond for dissolved oxygen estimation using Winkler's method, try to sample it in a bottle where there are no chances of air bubble, and sample it in a way that air bubble does not enter into the water bottle, sampling bottle, and fix the dissolved oxygen present in the bottle as soon as possible, and then go for other estimations. By using different reagents, you form acidic compound is formed, then that is with the help of some titrant, we try to neutralize that acidic compound, and at the end point we measure the dissolved oxygen content. That is the basic concept. In fact, there are many calculations involved that you can use, but nowadays you don't need to go through all these methods. You can use dissolved oxygen digital oxygen meter that can tell you the information what you are looking for without much effort. So you get the reading and then move ahead, have your own management decisions, what you need to do for ensuring the proper water quality. So that way, dissolved oxygen, I should again stress upon that dissolved oxygen content is one of the most crucial parameters which you should take care in order to get good profit and ensure the proper growth of the fishes which you have stocked. Concentration of bases and acids in the water that determines its pH. pH, many of us may be knowing in the terms that if pH is 7, it is neutral. If pH value goes below 7, the water becomes acidic, and if it goes beyond 7, it becomes alkaline, right? Now, the problem is fishes survive and grow best in waters at pH between 6 to 9. That means their requirement is slightly towards alkaline side. If water pH goes below and reaches into the acidic condition, the many aspects of fish life cycle will be affected, and fish growth will be, of course, compromised. And if it goes drastically down, then they may die also. Mortalities may also occur. So pH of water, in fact, again, I should say that I just gave you one example while explaining dissolved oxygen content, that pH of water is also related to other parameters. As I told you that in the morning hours, when there is high carbon dioxide content that gets dissolved into the water, forming carbonic acid, that ultimately takes the pH down, and that way the acidic condition starts developing, and that is hampering the fish, putting stress, fishes into stress because of the low dissolved oxygen content, because of the lower pH, and because of the higher carbon dioxide values. So that is one of the points that by which I wanted to explain that all the parameters work in coordination. So you will have to take care of the parameters likewise. Here that has been explained properly, that I explained you in dissolved oxygen, but here it is written that in the morning carbon dioxide levels are high and pH is low. As low means acidic side. As a result of respiration during the night, carbon dioxide forms a mild acid when dissolved in water. After sunrise, what happens? Photosynthesis occurs, and that produces oxygen from carbon dioxide, utilizes carbon dioxide. In photosynthesis, we all know carbon dioxide is utilized and oxygen is produced. So, the carbon dioxide, which was causing lowering of pH, was being utilized as sun came by the process of photosynthesis, and that lowered pH acidic condition became better when photosynthesis started, because carbon dioxide is being utilized, so lesser acidic condition in the aquatic system, and oxygen was produced, so dissolved oxygen content was also becoming better. So the fishes which were having hypoxia condition and other conditions, they were in stress, they may become better when photosynthesis starts. So as carbon dioxide is removed from the water, its pH increases, that we have already explained. Here again, it is written that lowest pH of the day is typically associated with the lowest level of dissolved oxygen, and highest pH is there when dissolved oxygen is at its highest. That means if you measure the pH in the afternoon, you may get higher side of pH. But if you measure pH early in the morning before sunrise, then you may get lower pH. These are some of the instruments. Nowadays, getting these water quality parameters analyzed is not a big fuss. You can get it. There are many type of instruments. Even pen type of pH meter is available. You can use that and you can get better results. So that was first part of this lecture of analysis of water quality parameters for aquaculture. In the next part, we will discuss the remaining parameters. Thank you so much.